Welcome back to the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. It is One Bills Live. John Murphy and Steve Tasker. Special guest now, Pro Football Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, and Super Bowl MVP with the St. Louis Rams. Right now, this weekend, he's an NFL Network analyst. Kurt Warner. You can see Kurt on the NFL Network's coverage of the 2020 Combine. It starts at 4 o'clock today, and you're going to be looking at quarterbacks right in your wheelhouse. Right in your wheelhouse.
Yes, I only want to stay in my wheelhouse. I don't need to go into anybody else's wheelhouse and try to tell them what's good at another position. So I get to come in every year for one day and get a chance to meet some of these guys. And, you know, we talk about watch them against air a little bit. I don't know what I ever glean from what they do on the field, but it's nice to get a chance to meet them and build a connection and hopefully make myself available if I can ever help them.
And this thing has gotten so big. It's been going for 30 years, and it used to be to save money so all the teams could come together.
Right.
And now it's a revenue stream, and they got this thing going. And we were talking just before we went on. Now guys are starting to come up with things like, hey, we need to change up how we're doing this. Let's look at some other things. Let's have the quarterbacks do some things that are relevant to today's game. Is there, how would you change this a little bit to find out? Because there's so much we find out that we already know. Is there anything, how would you find out what we don't know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer, especially the quarterback position. It's really hard to evaluate the position because what's really key about the position is what do you do in those 4 seconds once you get the ball? What do you see? What do you break down? How does your timing connect to it? And so I don't know if there's anything you can really do outside of making it something more competitive. Because I believe, to me, for a quarterback, it's about their eyes. It's about what you're seeing and how your feet and your throws correlate to what you're seeing. So how do you do that out here? Do you put a defense out there? Do you make them – I don't know. I just think it's all very hard. I mean, you go to a pro day, I expect every one of these guys to complete 90% of their passes at a pro day because they know what's coming. All they have to do is complete it, right?
They can rehearse
it. You see it. Half the time the ball can be 4 yards behind him. As long as the guy catches it, it's considered a completion. So – I just think it's very hard to find any position and go, hey, we know what they're going to be, and we can put together some sort of combine that's going to give us a better idea of who they are. I think this is about get them all together. Let me watch 13 or 15 guys compete with another guy standing next to him that just made a great throw. Now you go up and make that great throw. So I think it's some of that where instead of being at their own pro day where it's just them, let's put a little pressure on them with guys around them and everybody watching them. But I don't know if there's a perfect way to be able to figure out, like you're saying, the stuff we don't already know.
With Kurt Warner, Pro Football Hall of Famer, here working with the NFL Network today. Tell me about the quarterbacks you'll see when you guys hit the air at 4 o'clock. Who are you looking to see? What about Joe Burrow? Is he legitimate number one overall pick?
Well, I mean, I definitely think he's legitimate based on what he did last year. But unfortunately, we're not going to get to see him. We're not going to get to see Tua really do anything out there from a physical standpoint. Which I would like to see because Joe Burrow, I think one of the things people are saying is he doesn't have that top-level arm. You'd like to see it in person. I want to see it in person, what I see from him. But a couple of guys that I'm looking forward to watching, Jordan Love, is that next guy that people are talking about, athleticism, big arm. What does he do? Does he show that consistency to go along with that athleticism today? Justin Herbert is another guy that I watch him on film, and there's just something to me missing a little bit. Like everything he does seems to be really slow. And I feel like at the NFL level, man, you got to be fast. You got to be decisive. You got to get the ball out quick. You got to know what you're doing with the football. So I want to see that up close and personal. Jacob Eason is another guy that everybody tells me, I watched him on film and I really liked him on film, but everybody tells me he may be the Josh Allen of this year from a physical standpoint that comes out here and wows everybody with his arm. So I want to see what that looks like because as I was saying, you put 15 of these guys up next to each other and you kind of expect everybody to be good. Can there be one guy that goes, holy cow, that guy looks different than those other 14 guys? What it is about this guy? And so, Jacob Eason, from what everybody's telling me is keep an eye on this guy. This guy could win the combine because of his athleticism. And so those are a few guys that I've got my eyes on. Jake Fromm's another guy that I don't believe has that top-level athleticism or arm strength. But can he show me something in his ability to throw the football? And I go back to a few years ago. We were at the Combine, and Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins were in the same Combine. And as I was watching the Combine, I remember those two guys jumped out at me because when I watch the Combine, I watch, do you know how to throw every route? It's not, can you throw it to them? Do you have enough arm? Because we know everybody out here can do that. It's do you understand how to make that throw? And those were two guys that jumped out at me at understanding how to make different kinds of throws on a football field. Now we, fast forward 7-8 years, and here are two guys that are better guys in the league at being able to play the quarterback position. So those are the things I'm looking at. Jake Fromm, I think, is a guy that could be a little bit in that mold of understanding how to play the game.
Everything seems to be evolving. You got Lamar Jackson, who put together an MVP season. Pat Mahomes, who put together an MVP season. Russell Wilson has been doing it for now into his second contract. He's a different kind of quarterback. Josh Allen's a kind of an athlete. The position is evolving.
Right.
Certainly takes a different kind of athlete these days, and they look for different traits now than they did when you came.
Yeah.
So where do you think it's headed? Are there guys here? Is the new crop showing that evolution?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you talk about the Lamar Jacksons and those types of guys, I think it has opened up the imagination around the league at how you can win at the quarterback position. Decade ago when we were playing, it was like, okay, you got to have one of these guys because that's how you win championships. Now our imagination has been opened because there's not 32 of those guys. There's not 32 of those pocket passers that can be a Tom Brady, a Drew Brees that can win championships for you that way. So, okay, there's not 32 of them. If I don't have one, how do I find a guy that we can win with? And so that's evolved. And, and it fascinates me because I'm still a believer that when rubber meets the road, you've got to be able to make plays inside the pocket consistently if you want to compete with the best teams week in and week out come playoff time. But you can get there different ways. And so I think there's an imagination that's been opened where you have a guy, whether it's a Jordan Love or whether it's a Jacob Eason and these guys that are athletic, and you say to yourself, okay, I don't know if he's a great passer, but when you put his athleticism connected with being a good passer, we can make him into something special, or he could possibly become something special. But that's the interesting part. It's another thing where I can watch a guy run around and throw the ball 50 yards on the run. That doesn't mean he's going to be Russell Wilson.
Right.
That doesn't mean he's going to be Lamar Jackson. And so it's that same thing. Hey, do we want to add some other drills in to show their athleticism? Well, that's great. But can you do it in those 4 seconds and when bodies are around you and make that proper throw? Another thing that I don't think you can ever tell until you get out there with the speed and the players in the NFL. But I will be interested to see if we don't start moving in that direction as we get more and more athletic quarterbacks in the NFL.
We're live with NFL Pro Football Hall of Famer Kurt Warner. You said something a moment ago, which I'm sure got folks' attention in Buffalo. You talk about Josh Allen as if there's like a Josh Allen prototype now. What do you see from Josh? No, you did. You said he'll be the Josh Allen in this.
Well, I say that because Josh was the one that wowed people here at the Combine with his physical ability a couple years ago. But here's what I see with Josh is, the best thing to me is that he's gotten better each year. And that to me is what you want to see from a young guy is we knew he was a little bit of a project coming in, not having played a lot of football, that he needed to grow. He grew this year. But his bottom line is consistency, and I think it's twofold. It's consistency, with his technique, because he got such a big arm that he's used to getting away with so much with his right arm. If you allow technique to get away from you, I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or anybody else, it will come back to bite you. We saw that a number of times this year. And then the second thing is just growing in his ability to see and understand how to play the quarterback position. But I love the fact that he's found ways to win, and he's found ways to use his skill set to be successful in his first couple years. Now, if he can continue to grow in those other areas, the sky's the limit. And we know that they got a lot closer to the Patriots last year. Let's see if they can make another step this year.
So you had some success, a little bit of success in St. Louis there as you won a couple of world championships. Yeah. You moved over and you went to another team later in your career. So now we're sitting here in the landscape of the NFL, and you see a guy like Phillip Rivers, who's got a choice to make, and teams like the Tennessee Titans, who had a nice run with Tannehill. Right. So you've got these guys who that are veteran quarterbacks. You know what it's like to be out there and having an opportunity. Yeah. What's your advice to guys like Phillip Rivers and Ryan Tannehill? They're all kind of different. Yeah. But what's your thought on this this quarterback thing is laying out?
Right. The first thing that you say is we haven't seen very many great quarterbacks be great in two different places. It's not an easy thing to do, to take one situation and then just go somewhere completely different and think that everything's going to be the same and you can play at that same level. So that's the first thing that I always caution guys, that it's usually a process. You know, I was able to do it in Arizona, but it took me some time. And that's the thing when I look at a Brady or I look at a Rivers, I'm like, how much time you got?
Right.
You know, like you're going how much time do you have to rebuild this to have that kind of success? Not that they can't have it, but it's tough to do. And so
pick your spot.
You do. And, you know, and it's kind of the same with these teams that are going out to get them. It's like, how close are we? Is it worth going out and getting a Tom Brady or a Phillip Rivers? We know what they're capable of, but is our team capable of meeting them where they're at? Because if they're there and we're not for 2 years and now they're gone and then we don't have that, it's a fascinating mix to see which teams think they're close enough that if they add that guy, they can be that good. And then which quarterback thinks, oh, it's going to be just as easy going somewhere else as it was in New England or, you know, in L.A. to be able to pick up where I left off, because it's not an easy thing. It takes time, you know, unless you can come in and go, hey, this is my offense, this is what I do, you guys need to run my thing. To be able to mesh what you do, what a coordinator thinks, how they call a play, what the skill set of your team is to who you are, that takes a little bit of time. So I'm with you guys. I am fascinated to see how this plays out. And, you know, if Tom, because I think that's that piece, right? If Tom goes somewhere else, how things are going to fall with New England and other places, it makes it fascinating, and why we love that it's a 365, 24/7 now, because we can't. Super Bowl's over, and here we go. We got new things that we're talking about, and it's going to make it fun.
Kurt, did I read this right? Is somebody making a movie of your life?
We are, yes. It's been in the works for a long time, but it's kind of fast-tracked now. We're working with Lionsgate, the Irwin brothers, and they fast-tracked it to come out actually December 18th to be a Christmas movie. We don't know that yet.
Steve's available. Steve's done a little community theater.
We're finishing up the script now, and again, I look at it and go, man, December 18th seems like it's coming really, really quick, but I'll leave that to the powers that be. It just looks like it's going to be made, which is exciting. It's exciting that we've been working on it. We wanted to make it the right story. We didn't want to just do it. We want to make it right, and we think we're getting close to that. And so we'll see how it plays out.
It is one of the all-time great stories, man. It's great seeing you, Kurt. Thanks.
It's a great broadcast tonight. Kurt Warner, our guest, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, NFL Network analyst. You can see Kurt on NFL Network's coverage of the 2020 Combine.